All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Friday Amazon Seller News Live. Got a full house today with Leslie, Mina, and Danon. I appreciate you guys joining me.
Always
And
happy to be here.
absolutely. And I appreciate everybody out there watching, joining us as well. Got some good news again this week. Some holiday heists, some Black Friday trouble for Chinese sellers, too many deals, and some really big news, I think, with Amazon's reimbursement policy trying to steal money from sellers, in my opinion. So we'll dive into that and have lots of fun. Everybody out there listening, if you have any questions or comments on the news, throw them in the comments and we'll try to answer them during the show. But with that, let's go ahead and dive into the first headline here. So Holiday Heist diverts $1 million in toys using sophisticated scam. A $1 million shipment of Flycatcher's smart Sketcher toys was stolen in an elaborate freight scam where thieves impersonated legitimate trucking companies. The stolen goods were rerouted and began appearing on Amazon from third-party sellers at deep discounts, forcing Flycatcher to lower its own prices and lose revenue during peak holiday sales. Flycatcher has filed a federal lawsuit against 14 online sellers, allegedly offering the stolen toys, while organized strategic theft incidents have surged, posing growing risks for businesses relying on logistics brokers. This case highlights the needs for Amazon sellers to monitor third-party marketplaces and take precautions to prevent losses from fraudulent supply chain activities. Now, this story, I think, is probably a big reason that Amazon has really started cracking down on supply chain paperwork and making sure you've got the paperwork to back up where you bought those products from, and have seen a lot of sellers, resellers especially, I should say, get their accounts shut down for buying product from illegitimate suppliers, to say the least. So why don't we start with you, Leslie? What are your thoughts on this story?
I was so excited when I saw this was one of the things we're going to talk about, because I've worked on this. Not this particular company, but this scam. I have a client. They are in over-the-counter medication / supplements type of business. They actually sell brand names you would recognize at the store. So about... trying to remember what it was. It's the beginning of 2024. So this has been going on for some time. They had a truckload that came into a container that came into Port of LA. And this exact same scam happened. So the broker, there was a broker who put the load out to trucking companies to bid on. There was a winning bidder, a trucking company, and then either someone inside that trucking company is, working on the down low with bad guys, or the information was somehow stolen. They had fake documents that a trucker had, that it made it look like they were with, ABC Express Trucking Company, and they weren't. So they waltzed into Port of LA, they get the truckload put on their semi, and they drive right out with all the product. And in this case, it was millions of dollars, because y'all think about it, it was medication, right? So it's tiny little boxes that were each, $25 boxes or whatever of medication. So millions of dollars. So client didn't know, because they just thought the truckload hadn't been picked up yet. So then all of a sudden, their offers on Amazon, which they are the primary seller on, as the brand owner, flooded with offers that are half of the price. So if it's like a $20 box of meds, it was up for $10, because people had bought these as stolen goods. It was fenced out to many, many sellers. Here's the rub. So they contact Amazon, nothing. Contact Amazon, nothing. Contact Amazon, nothing. So this is an ongoing client of ours. So they called us about it. And we found a guy at Amazon who actually cares about stolen stuff in warehouses. And he eventually started taking down the third party sellers who had these offers up because we proved to them these were stolen goods, but it took like a month for Amazon to care enough, even though it's the brand owner. It took a month for us to get those offers down. But just like this story, it's whack-a-mole, because then, like 5 weeks later, here come 2 new offers because these goods have been fenced out all over the place. And a lot of the resellers, just honest to God, didn't know. This is a product that's everywhere. So it's in like every drugstore and every grocery store you go to. So you're not thinking about it being stolen goods, right? So anywho, you're absolutely right, Todd. This is part of why Amazon is cracking down on provenance and on chain of custody documents. And they want to see proof that you actually got it from someone legit. And they are really working hard. I heard recently about some reorganization that they're doing internally, globally, in their enforcement and, shall we say, their internal law enforcement and global investigations divisions. They're reorganizing to share data better so that when things like this happen in the United States and overseas, they're actually figuring it out and not just being like the biggest fence on earth, which I would bet you money that right now Amazon is the biggest fence on earth.
For sure.
You know what
I can imagine.
You know what this reminds me of is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Foot. That's what they did. They'd go heist all this stuff and sell it elsewhere. It's like, we got a real life version of Ninja Turtles for us going on. Because and I could see this. I never even considered this, right? But I could see this being a very, very well. It must be, first of all, well organized, right? But I could see them subcontracting out the deal to the truck drivers, and they have no idea. They just go deliver it where they're supposed to, right? And so it's like, how do you find that? That takes a real investigation. But I'll tell you, the biggest problem here, second biggest problem, is the fact that Amazon takes so damn long. And 30 days isn't actually that bad, all things considered. Leslie, I know you have horror stories on stuff like this.
Right. And I know, and you're right. I mean, 30 days isn't awful, but at the same time, like for this toy company story, it's during peak. And they said that these other sellers had marked it down like 25 or 30% for a very expensive toy item. It's like $100 item.
Yeah, we have one of those things.
Really? So so it's killing their holiday sales. They've already sent all the inventory here, so they're eating it. And now they have stolen goods, so they've got to file an insurance claim. Please, I hope, dear God, that they had good insurance, that they didn't cheap out on the insurance, right?
It says in the article they only had $100,000 worth of insurance.
Oh.
Okay, so if we're going to do lessons learned from each of our stories today, y'all don't cheap out on the insurance, because this is a thing. I think what frustrates me the most about Amazon, though, is they have Amazon brand registry where you had to jump through all the hoops to get your brand registry. So you've proven I'm the guy. This is me. And so how can you have a situation where you're supporting sending multiple support cases to brand registry, to seller support, emailing people like the legal department, and it takes 30 days to get her done? I mean, my goodness, it's crazy.
Well, you remember before brand registry ever existed, right? That brand registry was supposed to be the solution for legitimate sellers. That didn't work out as well as it was supposed to. So now you've got Project Zero, right? And what's the other project?
Transparency.
Thank you, transparency. So we now have 3 different tools that are supposed to handle effectively the same situation, but it only handles part of it, and even then, it doesn't really fix the problem. right?
Well,
Yeah,
transparency should fix the problem 100%, right? Because then no other seller can send inventory because it's a unique barcode. Each individual product is a unique barcode. Obviously, Amazon profits like what, 30 cents, Leslie, for each transparency sticker, something like that.
But this is the
this is
the real product, though, right?
Yeah,
No,
these
no,
would
no,
have
no,
had
no,
a
product.
code on it.
No,
And if it's going to the warehouse, it would already have the codes.
No, because
If
the
they
codes
weren't
are tied to your, but the codes are tied to your Seller Central account. So a different Seller Central cannot send your code that you purchased. So that's how I think transparency kills it. Is that like you're buying 1,000 barcodes and the numbers are unique, and so if someone else sends your number, they're like, no, that's MMA Nutrition's transparency. It's not yours, and it gets rejected. I heard that there is. I was talking to the transparency team. I heard there's still a loophole somewhere, but it's so difficult that most people don't know it. And if we I don't even know it off the top of my head. If we don't know it, I doubt. I mean, you have to be a really very high level heister to figure this out. But I also think you guys touched on the biggest thing. Like Leslie, you mentioned the insurance, but I think this is the biggest mistake that most people make is they cheap out on their transportation. They cheap out on I cheaped out on quality control, inspecting my products, and I got screwed. And we've heard 1,000 stories like that. I think a lot of people, because when I use a freight forwarder, like Tactical Logistics, for example, they don't just put a bid out and say, oh, we're going to use the best trucking company because they're trying to save $50 or $100 on a shipment. They're using guys that they've used that have delivered. And if the thing goes missing, they know the guy who's driving the truck. They know everything. So it's I feel like it's another lesson of you get what you pay for. If you cheap out on quality control, you cheap out on supply chain insurance. Or logistics, insurance, you're gonna get screwed.
Yeah. Well, part of the problem here, though, Mina, is that the scammers were impersonating these legitimate trucking companies. They had their paperwork and everything. They registered domains that were almost the same as the trucking companies so that they could make these bids and stuff. So yeah, you try to get the best shipping, but even if you buy from a reputable broker and then the scammer intercepts it somehow and pretends to be that trucker, there's not a lot of checks and balances. These truckers pull up, if they've got the paperwork, you figure they're legit. I mean, the trucking companies come to my warehouse. They're like, I'm here to pick up this pallet. They've got the paperwork there. You just give them the pallet. You don't even think twice about it, really. So maybe there needs to be some kind of, system in place where you're verifying the companies somehow or the driver somehow, I guess.
But then again, to Mina's point, they cheaped out on insurance, and Leslie's point, they cheaped out on insurance. This, for sure. Yes, this is a debacle for sure. But if they had $1 million and then they bought insurance for $1 million, then they would probably get their $1 million, right? After some unbelievable amount of annoyance from the insurance company, to be sure, right? Because they're not really there to help you. They're a for-profit company, not a charity. So, but still, he's getting 10%, and that sucks. That could kill a company.
I read this part down at the end here, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me, but it's interesting that the U.S. Logistics, which is the company that the scammers impersonated, is suing the company that makes this toy. I don't know if they're suing them. It doesn't say why they're suing them, if they're suing them for tarnishing their name or something somehow. I don't know. But I thought that was kind of weird.
That's a very specific amount.
Yes,
$361,872.
Yeah, that's super weird. And I'll tell you, granted, we don't have the whole story here, but what a-holes?
Yes.
Yeah,
they're just kind of hurting their image, I would say, more than anything. I don't know. It doesn't say why. I don't know. Maybe they have a legitimate reason, but
maybe. But if they do, they'd better jump on this article and reach out and say, hey, you need to give context to this, because my immediate response to this is, wow, what dicks to go out and just sue the company because they didn't get their truck to pick it up because someone else impersonated their company, which had nothing to do with the manufacturer. That's how I see this right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little crazy, but yeah, I don't know the full story there and what's going on, but I've read the other thing I had highlighted here. This type of fraud now accounts for 33% of all cargo theft, up from 5 to 10% for 2022.
It is the foot. It's
yeah.
Well, and I gotta have a quick shout out to, I think it was Orange County Sheriff's Department. The case of my client, they actually found a portion of the goods in an abandoned container by the side of the road. So they did have like eyes and ears looking for the container. They found it. They had video from Port of LA, and they were trying very hard to. This was not like a, oh well, a lot of theft, even if it's large dollar amounts. I think we all get the feeling that law enforcement may not really focus on it. They were really trying and really focused on it. I was actually quite impressed by the progress they made. And,
Nice.
That statistic would show why, right? That would tell you why they're actually making a real effort. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it was the opposite of what I thought it would be.
Yep, that is good. It's for private label sellers, obviously buy the insurance for a large shipment. If I'm sending a small shipment, a few $1,000s worth of goods, I typically skip on the insurance. But if it's a large enough amount where if I lost it, it would harm my business, then I'm definitely getting the insurance for sure to cover the replacement cost of the product.
And where, I don't even know where do you get that? Who do we have in our industry that does
insurance?
Yeah.
The insurance would come
should
through
know.
the broker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Your freight forwarder, or if you're using a broker, like we use Priority One, they're a freight broker, and so when we're going through the process, there's a checkbox that if you want to buy insurance, check it, enter how much, and it adds it into the total.
So it sounds like to me you're saying that U.S. Cargo should have helped this brand get the correct insurance.
Well, it probably wasn't U.S.
What about
Cargo.
tracking? What about tracking?
It would have been the freight broker. What was that, Mina?
What about tracking inside of the trucks? Like, do they do the trucking companies / freight forwarders, whatever, do they have tracking inside of the trucks? So obviously, like, if you could like take out the tracker and throw it and put it into different trucks or something like that. But like, at least you would know. You'd be like, hey, like this is supposed to be going this way. It's going that way. What's like why? And then
you mean in the
immediately
container, right?
Yeah. So because the crazy thing is, this morning I'm in an exotics car group, and this morning someone posted the exact same story as this with a Lamborghini, like the SUV that they were basically like they were about to use the shipping company, and then they called the insurance to confirm so they showed a $500,000 insurance policy. The scam gets even deeper. They showed the $500,000 insurance policy, so they did have insurance, but then the person, the dealer or whatever, called the insurance company, and the insurance company could not confirm. Like, they said, we don't see a record of that insurance. It's not even real. Yeah. And then they canceled the shipment, and to find out that this company has stolen 10 exotic cars.
Wow.
And it's like a brand new company. They've only done like 10 shipments or whatever, and all of them have been stolen cars, and they probably are just going to keep doing it until like they try and catch them. And it's like the truckers don't even know.
So hold on a second. Now we've just figured out that the Ninja Turtles and Gone in 60 Seconds are both documentaries.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, just verifying that. Okay, good. Documentaries, got it.
Yeah,
reclassify those movies.
Yeah, I'm sending this article to my freight broker just to see what protections they have in place.
Yeah,
but this kind of thing doesn't happen. But you got to be careful out there. There's thieves everywhere in every level that are trying to steal.
Yeah, and
if you're a reseller, make sure you're working with a good supplier, a legitimate supplier. If they're sending you deals on Telegram and it includes the ASINs and cheap prices, they're probably selling you fraudulent stuff a lot of times.
And report those people.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remembered actually the loophole in transparency.
Okay.
So anyone could apply as long as they can prove that the product is legitimate. So it could be that they bought it at a huge discount from me, but if they prove that the product is legitimate, then they, because anyone can sell any new legitimate product on Amazon. Like you can't, as the brand owner, like block other people. But because of the entire transparency program, I think it's very involved, and you have to give your ID and all this kind of stuff that, people who are doing this knowing that it's not correct will just say like, fuck it, I'm not going to do it. So they could actually buy their own transparency stickers, but if it's stolen goods, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just be careful out there. That is for sure. Verify your documents and everything else. All right, let's go ahead and jump on to the next story here. So, no Black Friday windfall for Chinese sellers amid rising competition. Chinese sellers on platforms like Temu, Shein, and Amazon face tighter margins and lower profits this Black Friday. Despite rising sales volumes, fierce competition, increased advertising costs, and cut-to-the-bone pricing, sometimes set by the platforms themselves, left many sellers struggling to turn a profit. While Temu and Shein continue to push aggressive discounts, Amazon launched its budget-friendly haul section to compete for price-sensitive shoppers, further intensifying market pressures. Sellers now must navigate these challenges while adapting to rising costs and evolving platform strategies. So this article caught my eye just because obviously we talk about the struggles of us US sellers all the time, fighting Amazon and low prices and such. So I thought it was interesting that, Chinese sellers are essentially complaining about a lot of the same things on their end as well.
I want to hear from Mina on this one, since I think he's of the three of us, he's probably the closest to this.
Yeah. So for years, I've been basically saying like, what I'm noticing with a lot of brands on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Prime Day, etc., is they'll continue to spend money on ads. Normally, they'll do discounts, they'll do all this stuff. They'll sell more, but then you're left with no profit. And so if your strategy is like, hey, I want to sell a lot of units, even at a loss because of like something like maybe lifetime value or whatever, cool. But most of us aren't. Most of us are trying to make profit. So I think I think we have the power, and I think that Black Friday and Cyber Monday only exists because we are willing to do this. If like brands start pulling back and saying, hey, like there's no like what the only people that are winning right now are Amazon and the customer and not me. That's number one. Like that's how you can start changing the narrative. And number two, this is the root cause of this issue is product differentiation. Like at the end of it, like the only reason that Chinese is even in this conversation is because you're too lazy to create a product that's a lot better than everyone else. So that, because like,
well said.
We know this. Like if you go to a store and like there's like whatever 5 mugs, and then there's the mug that has like a digital thing on it that tells you like X, Y, and Z which is better. Like you're not comparing the pricing. You're just saying, am I willing to pay like $30 for this thing? And then that's its price. You're not even looking that this is $10 or $11, like because it's a category of its own. And from every single brand I've worked with, I would say we work with over like 300 brands we've worked with. Maybe literally like 15 or 20 of them have actually innovated consistently. The other 90%, 95% is just they make a product, they make a listing, and they're just clinging on to it was selling amazing in 2021. What happened?
Yeah.
And I'm like, the market changed. Like it.
Yeah. I see that so often. And it's interesting you mentioned that because I actually did a podcast with somebody named Maurizio. It's IDW Innovations. That's exactly what we talked about. And so if you think about it, big brands, they do this, right? So what he was talking about was you innovate, but you do incremental releases and then a big release. Incremental releases and then a big release. So we see, let's take Apple, for instance. This is exactly what they do. We got the M1 chip. We've got the M2 chip. We've got the M3 chip. We skipped the M3 chip and went straight to the M4 chip, right? And that's what they do. And then their incremental updates are their OS updates, right? Their operating system updates for their phones, for whatever. But then again, at the same time, like, you know, I've got an iPhone. I think this is a 13, right? So it's an iPhone 13. I think we're on 16 now. Even this from 13 to 16 is an incremental update. They remove the button, but it's the same platform, right? And so you want to differentiate yourself and you want to stay on top of the market. I agree with you 100%, Mina. You got to be doing that. And regarding this specific thing, this article goes on to say that people are buying when it's super low. That's exactly what we did. It's exactly like my wife. There's a box of Christmas presents right over here that my wife bought in June because of something or other, you know, and we just stockpile that stuff. We have literally purchased 0 products for this Christmas holiday for our kids. Not a single one, because we've already got them all. So, and then on that dealing stuff, like on my products, I don't run any lightning deals. I don't do Prime Day. I don't do any of that stuff because I'm not willing to give up my margins for it. So I just don't.
Same.
Yeah. What this tells me, I guess, as well, is that we've kind of reached the lowest you can go, right? You know, the old saying is you never want to compete on price because there's always somebody willing to go cheaper. I think we finally found the cheapest that
Amazon.
People are willing to go. You know, if even the Chinese factories are saying we're not profitable anymore, we can't sell on these platforms and keep going. Prices, that means to me eventually here, are going to have to rise as these sellers just kind of stop selling on these platforms.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just like online dollar store saturation, right? Because really this is like an online Dollar General.
Yeah.
Yes.
Essentially. And y'all know the jokes about in the South how there's like a Dollar General across the street from a Dollar General across the street from a Dollar General. And that's essentially what we've got here. Because first there was Temu, and they put all their garbage up there with all the, you know, poison that's going to kill you if you wear that shirt too long. And then Sheen or whatever, they do the same thing, and they're selling the same junk and, you know, the jewelry that's going to make you have seizures next year. And then Amazon put up Haul, and they've got the decorations for your house that are like dripping with mercury or whatever. And so it's like, how many Dollar Trees can someone visit? And it's just this. So
before you kill your buyer base.
Well, yes, and also I think there's a fad element to this, because I'm sure y'all have heard the same things that I have, that there are certain friends of mine who have kids who got really excited about like Temu, and they bought all these clothes for like $5 and turned over their whole wardrobe, and it was awesome. How many times are they going to do that? It's just like they did it a few times and then they've moved on to the next trendy thing. There's a limit to how many times someone's going to keep doing that. I'm sure there's a small market of people who will, but it's like fatigue with online dollar store. Or maybe I'm just hopeful. Maybe that's what I want it to be.
Yeah,
Leslie,
I'm afraid to tell you, I think you might be hopeful here.
I think there's gonna be no fatigue. I actually believe that like really amazing products, like very high quality, good for you, are gonna end up, you know, becoming very, very cheap, because like that's like human evolution, right? Like how much was anything, right? Like 10,
you think
15
so?
years ago. Look at the computer. Look at the computer. Look at a computer 15 years ago.
I see. Okay, I see where you're going.
Was $4,000, and now like the best of the best. I mean, not Apple, but like not a brand, but like just LG, Sony, whatever. A really high tech, amazing computer is $250. Like that's what's gonna happen. And the only people that are still able to charge $1,000, $1,500 are either innovations or brand. You know, like the people who who came up with your computer can turn and can be an iPad and a computer. Perfect. Charging more. Innovation. You know, someone who built a brand, you know, obviously they can charge more because of the brand equity. And I think that's what's going to happen. Like either build brand equity, which I think to 95% of everyone listening here is going to be hard. It's difficult. And then the other 5%
but what
of
they
us
need to
can
do
innovate. What do you,
yeah,
build,
it's hard.
Are you saying what,
you're saying it's hard to build brand equity, but I think it's what they need to do. That's what needs to happen.
Also I agree. I think you should try, but I think it might be not reachable for a lot of us. Like it's going to be very hard to reach a level of brand like Apple. Yes, shoot for that. Fall somewhere below it, but everyone can innovate. Every single person here can like how many people have you guys worked with that have focus groups that are talking to their customers all the time, that are understanding like they don't like this dog thing because of X, Y, and Z dog stuff. You know,
in the Amazon sector, that's just looking at the negative reviews.
Yeah, you know, but how many
in
people
my
do
experience?
That? Like,
I've not a lot.
Yeah. So I think that's what needs to happen. So like because China, Chinese people have come to me and they've said, hey, like we have a factory. We want to build brands that are like as good or better than US brands. Like I'm not a unique person. There's hundreds of people like me who can start doing that guidance.
We all love you.
Yeah. You know what I mean? But like there's hundreds of people that have this like expertise that can start partnering with these Chinese manufacturing facilities. Eventually they will build really good brands. The one thing that we have is we live here and we can innovate faster. That's all. Like because like this stuff, like, you know, I mean, even just me visiting and staying in Dubai for 6 months and then 6 weeks, and coming back here, I felt so behind because like everything that's happening in the US, Miami, LA, New York, whatever, you're hearing it first, like months before anyone else in the world is hearing it. And I think that is the US's competitive edge.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously low price stuff isn't going away. And you know, tech is a little bit of a different sector because, you know, there's constant innovation in tech, which helps drive down the effects of inflation, especially. I think tech is the only reason that our inflation level isn't at 20, 30, 40%. And in some things it is that high because places where tech doesn't touch as much, the prices tend to rise higher because you see that inflation going up. But I wanted to point out this factory owner said his store runs on the full custody model, meaning that Temu takes care of everything from pricing to logistics, but the site has set prices so low, sometimes way below cost, that Z had no choice but to remove a third of the 300 items he had listed.
They're becoming Amazon.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was just going to say. Look at that. Here's your future Amazon sellers.
That's what Amazon would do.
Good old dictatorship. Amazon.com is gonna dictate your prices and where you can buy them, and eventually you're just gonna make zero money, and Amazon will thank you for it as you go and live under a bridge in a van.
Yeah, but it's interesting though, because this sounds like it's kind of like the vendor central model, but on consignment, right? And then Temu is like, okay, we're going to sell it really cheap, and then we don't owe you anything. You know, basically after you send us the inventory.
Yep.
So you think they're doing this to acquire customer base? Because you know, like how marketplaces have done this. Like in the first year, we're going to lose money just for like market share, and then we're gonna figure out profitability later. We
as brands do this. We as service companies do this, right? When we're first starting out, we need to generate some PR. We need to generate some revenue and stuff like that, and so we do this at a rate that is hard to say no to, as long as you can build up enough trust there, right? And so, I think generally speaking, we as consumers in America, we pretty much don't trust the Chinese. But look at that price, right? Oh, and look, they've gamified it. If I buy 14 things, I get a silver star, right? and now I'm back on Temu looking for the next hot deal.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to go away. I think you will see some price increase as this settles out because, Amazon lost a lot of money for a long time, but they were mostly losing their own money because they would put in a purchase order. Yeah, in the end, but they would put in a purchase order for a price and they would pay that price and then sell the products maybe at a loss to gain that consumer share that Mina was talking about. But it sounds like Temu is taking the product, not paying for it, and then selling it at a loss and still not paying for it because they didn't make any money, is what this sounds like to me. So this guy pulled his products out so that they would stop basically selling his products at a loss.
Crazy.
And that is not something that is sustainable because the small sellers are not going to continue to take that loss on Temu's behalf.
Yeah, well, look, let's hope this story makes its way around to the other manufacturers that Temu and Shine are screwing over, because, if it doesn't, I mean, it's going to affect a lot of businesses. Like, I have no ill will towards anybody there, right? Everyone that I've met has been really just great people, right? But at the same time, like, when you have somebody that says, yeah, we've got the audience, as Amazon does, so you do this for us, or else I'm just gonna poo-poo you, right? Well, okay, fine. I've been strong-armed into doing this thing, and they go, oh, whoops, we accidentally screwed you over. You got to shut your business down.
Yep,
that too has happened to us as sellers. So it's like, this is just on a bigger scale, right?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing you kind of got to worry about if you're in China is, this factory owner, hopefully he doesn't get a visit from the government,
CCP.
The CCP, yeah, for talking bad about Temu or something. You gotta worry about that stuff as well when you're over there. But
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to watch. I'm curious to see, after the holidays here, what the results were for sales, especially with Amazon Haul, Temu, and Shine, of course, as well, to see were sales overall increased on Amazon. And they probably won't, but it'd be nice if they broke out regular Amazon and Amazon Haul. They probably won't do that because they won't want people to know how much dollar amount was stolen from regular Amazon going over to Haul. But that would be a really cool number to know.
It would be. And I hope that Haul has an epic crashing failure.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
It probably will. It probably will.
Yeah, but I want it to be like really epic, so that, because technically, if you think about it, Amazon went, oh my gosh, we're losing market share to these cheap places, right? So instead of helping us sellers to come up with a solution for it, they went, well, if you can't beat them, join them, right? Without thinking of the ramifications of those who make up the vast majority.
Danon,
go ahead, Mina.
What is Amazon's like number one biggest thing is being customer obsessed. You're not the customer. We're not.
That's
the customer.
True.
The customer
That's true.
is the customer.
That's a fair point.
They've always been obsessed with person, and I think that's what makes them successful. And then the one thing I want to tell all sellers is just generate your own demand. Like maybe this is a sign, an early sign, hopefully. Like if you can generate your own demand, through TikTok Shop, or I mean that's another marketplace, but like whatever. I mean, you're gonna have to use something, right? But if you can generate your own demand, and if you can bring people to your own, generate your own traffic, you don't need marketplaces. And that's an individual thing. Like if we're talking like a whole systematic problem, it's a whole different conversation. But at least at an individual level, if you can generate your own demand, you should be fine. I mean, all of us are also at the mercy of Amazon, so it's like, if Amazon goes away, we're screwed. So it's just a warning sign to say, hey, just know that you're not on a stable foundation. Like they could do anything at any time.
Yep. And I still hope that Haul fails.
Yes. You're absolutely correct. Amazon can do anything at any time, and they
Speaking
did.
of which,
yes,
They did.
we'll jump to this story here to make sure we can get to it. So this is actually my own post, but there's a million of people commenting. I would say 99.9% of it negatively on this policy that was released 2 days ago now, I believe. But let's see. Amazon sellers. This isn't greater transparency. It's theft in disguise. Amazon's new policy to reimburse sellers for lost or damaged inventory based on manufacturing costs rather than the sales price is a direct blow to seller profits. Sellers are now forced to input their COGS, opening the door for lowball reimbursements while ignoring additional costs like shipping, labor, and lost sales opportunities. It highlights that this move unfairly penalizes sellers for Amazon's warehouse mistakes and disguises a fee increase under the pretense of greater transparency. Sellers are urged to speak out against this policy, which threatens fair compensation and sets a troubling precedent for the future. So essentially, Amazon come March here is going to try to force people to input their COGS and reimburse you on your manufacturing cost rather than the retail sales price of the products. So you're going to be losing all of that shipping, all of those tariffs that you had to pay, all of that labor cost, all of those missed opportunity costs if your products go out of stock because Amazon lost them or damaged them, whatever the case may be. I think this is a very big policy update that Amazon kind of tried to sneak in after saying we're not going to increase any fees in 2025.
Yeah. What was
should we?
Yeah, go ahead, Mina.
Should we blame Getita for doing too good of a job?
That could be part of it.
Could be.
Definitely not blaming them for getting people money, but that probably had an effect, I'm sure, on Amazon's pocketbook anyways.
Leslie, what's the name of that tool that they were promoting free access to at Accelerate? Do you remember the name of it? Is it VQuo?
I do not remember the name of the tool, but I what I do know is that reimbursement companies have been helping private label sellers to essentially automatically create bills of lading, and so that the reimbursement company could very easily submit documentation proving that the value of a lost shipment. And I think Amazon doesn't like that because what they count on is what we deal with clients every day. We have clients, because we do reimbursements. So a client sends an inbound shipment, it's not received. So we ask the client, hey, give us invoices, hey, give us invoices, hey, give us invoices. And they don't have time, they can't find it, whatever the situation is. And so they lose out on that reimbursement. And y'all, these aren't just like onesie twosie sellers. These are brands and large sellers who it leaves us just scratching our heads, honestly, because sometimes you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars that they're leaving on the table. Well, if we have this service we can offer where we're essentially able to generate the document for you, then suddenly Amazon is paying out a whole lot more, which they should do because they are the 3PL. So essentially, they want all the fees you get as a 3PL with none of the responsibility of being a 3PL, because there's no 3PL out in the marketplace that loses your stuff and then it's like, because then they lose your business forever, right? So Todd, I thought your social posts were so spot on with this. And my partner, Joe, gave me such a great example. He said that last week, so trucking costs right now are through the roof, right? So last week, if you needed a truck, you were going to pay $4,500 for a truck. Whereas, the rest of the year, you might pay $300, $500, $700. You're going to pay $4,500 for this truck he got a quote on. And so he could have say, hired that truck, shipped all the goods. Someone had to prep it, pack it. He had to pay shipping from his factory to where it landed, right? And then now he's paying the $4,500 to get it to Amazon. It gets to Amazon, they lose it. How much did he lose? Forget that they want to reimburse the cost of goods, but as you mentioned, you're paying the tariffs and the import fees. You're paying $4,500 for the truck, all the labor, the inbound shipping that you already paid once because he's breaking shipments to multiple places, right? It's absolutely insane that they think a seller should eat all of this, because here's the part where it's theft. And that's why I love that Todd used the word theft, because no one ever wants to do that. And it is because Amazon, they have this stuff. It didn't disappear. It didn't walk away. It didn't go poof. It's somewhere in their warehouse. So at some point, one of two things happens. Three things, actually. One of three things happens. Either they credit the inventory back to your account and take back the money. We've all had that happen to us. Or number two, they sell it themselves. Or number three, they liquidate it out of their warehouse.
Which ends up back there anyhow.
Yes. So when they sell it themselves, they are making all that margin on the free inventory that just fell in their lap, that they paid you your cost of goods. They didn't have to do any of the sourcing, shipping, or anything else. So yes, it's theft. I'll shut up now. Sorry, I could rant on this forever.
I have a question, guys, and I don't know the answer. What happens when this happens with another 3PL? So ShipBob or whatever, one of these other 3PLs, you send the inventory there. What happens if they lose 100 units? Like, do you guys know? I don't know, but I'm wondering.
I don't know.
Yeah, like what? Yeah, like
I don't know either.
Because I know that they might not have a policy that's like, oh, well, do you have to go through insurance? Do you have to sue them? Because probably, that'll give us maybe a little bit of a direction of, like, if Amazon says, I'm only going to pay you COGS and none of the damages, then maybe this is the time for attorneys to come in and say, hey, this is your mistake. This is losses like that we would not have incurred. And then there's an insurance policy, and that, also will cover like that plus the legal fees. And then there's, Amazon will have to pay that back. I don't know, but that's probably, if I were to guess, I would love to, ask someone who's been through the 3PL kind of situation where, hey, this 3PL lost me money. Because if we're going to have to depend on like a negative review in Google and saying, I'm going to leave you a negative review in Google for losing my stuff, we're screwed.
Yeah. Todd, maybe we need to get Eric on here, or Afalabi, to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, Eric would be good since he owns a 3PL. I could shoot a message over to him at least and ask him, and put it in the comments later.
Yeah.
And I have questions about things like, the inventory placement fee. It's actually assessed as part of your inbound shipping. So like when you do the buy shipping thing for an inbound shipment, the inventory placement fee is in there. So then if they lose your stuff, do they credit you back that fee? Or do you just eat that too? Right. So that's where it comes into being theft, because they didn't actually do anything to get that fee. That's the kind of stuff that it's always in the details. And the other thing that really irks me is the way they wrote it was like, this is a benefit to you.
Yeah, of course they wrote it that way. But how does a lawyer write a bullshit contract? This contract's in your favor, and that's it's pretty words, right? But this is
ChatGPT. How do we make this sound nice?
Yeah, like, exactly. Yeah. How do I tell
Rufus,
you?
Rufus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it is Vico, by the way. And I remember when I was at Accelerate, Vico was like, "Hey, come on, it's free, right?" It's they're shipped. Amazon bought Vico, and they're shipping and some statistics and stuff like that. It's like, get free access to all of your metrics, but you have to put your COGS in. Right. Yep. And one for one, every seller I talked to about Vico was absolutely not. I am not. No way I would use that. I don't care if I'm paying $500 a month for something else that gives me the same information that they'll give me for free. I am not giving them that information. But guess what? Yes, you are now.
Well, and what are they going to fight you on too? Like, say you sell something that is identical to an Amazon Basics product, but yours is made in the USA. And all of your branding and marketing is that this is made in the USA because it's some category that it would make the buyer feel better. Like it's a baby item or something made in the USA. So let's pretend that you're doing that. And then Amazon looks and says, you have an inflated cost of goods. What's up with this? Right there. And you shouldn't be able to do that. This is inflated. This is wrong. And it's
it's just your fees in there, Amazon.
USA. Right. And so they're comparing it to they've made it really clear that they're using like a database, cost of goods and invoices to calculate for you. So they'll say, this is inflated. This is ridiculous. But they're buying their product, their Amazon Basics product in China. So then you have to try and justify it and argue. Are they going to say that you're falsifying documents and throw you off the platform? Because we've seen that happen with plenty of clients.
Yeah. I'm actually going through this right now. So we sent four boxes of 100 units each through UPS from a supplier. Amazon received 100 of the 400 units. And so we opened, the case to get find out where they are or get reimbursement or whatever. They come back and say, oh, you sent some also on this other shipment that came from my warehouse instead of directly from the supplier. So we're just going to credit those to this shipment and say that's the ones that you sent in, and then they close it. And they were still missing like 100 units from that. And I opened the case back. Well, first I looked at the shipment and I'm like, that product's not even on that shipment. So I don't even know where you're getting that there's 200 units on that other shipment. But it's like, how are you just going to assume that, I send 400 units from one address and then I maybe sent some from another address, completely separate shipment a month later, and you're going to say, oh, those are the ones that you meant to send on this other shipment. It's just ridiculous. But that's Amazon. It's a battle. And this is just going to make it harder, I think, especially having to input your COGS, which they say you don't have to, but they're going to lowball you if you don't.
Yeah, your reimbursements are going to cost you money if you don't, right? This is the play that's very well orchestrated to make you do and provide the information they want to have so that you can get what you deserve. But it's what it is doing the deal with the devil.
Yeah.
That's technically
100%.
what this style is.
But why are you complaining? There's no new fees in 2025.
Yeah, totally. No new fees. We're just going to put you out of business because now we know who your manufacturer is, what the pricing is, and we've got the buying power.
Yeah. And this, this wouldn't be a big issue if Amazon didn't lose stuff all the time. Like, we track our receiving percentage, and typically it fluctuates between about 92% up to maybe 98% of the products that we send in, Amazon receives. So out of every 100 products I send, they're at least losing a handful of units every time we do a shipment. So it's not like
you know how to ship
very often.
Yeah, I know you know how to ship stuff too. That's like, I find it very strange because when I ship in product, it's on a pallet and there's boxes. Like, what do you do? Like, take a box and and just toss it? Like, oh, we lost one. Yeah. Here you go. All right, put it in this bin. Oh, gosh, I just threw that into the trash can that I'm going to take out the door later. Whoops.
Yeah, the mysterious ones are like you send a case of 100 and they receive 98. It's like, where'd the other two go? I know it was a box of 100. It's like, come on.
And Amazon has security measures in place to look for, I think, Leslie, maybe do these people have to run through an x-ray or it's at least a bag check, right?
Right. So they check you when you leave the warehouse at the end of the day, they check you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of the stuff, y'all, that I've had turn up missing, no one is going to steal. I mean, I guess people will steal anything, but if you think about what they're going to steal, it's watches and iPhones. It's not lotion and,
your
face
pictures.
Cleaning wipes.
Right.
Woo! I stole some face cleaning wipes today.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, Todd. It drives me crazy when it's like case packed from the manufacturer. And then they're like, oh, you're short too. I think Adidas at one point did a study and said that 7 to 8% of inventory was lost for sellers.
Yep.
That's your margin for a lot of people. That's your whole margin. That's the whole thing.
Heck yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you already got to fight to get the money back. So I can just imagine once this goes into effect, they're going to be fighting those invoices tooth and nail, saying, like you said, Leslie, oh, that we think that price is too high. You're lying about that. We need proof. And then what do you do? It's like, okay, what do I?
What's going to happen?
Provide you a signed affidavit from our
notarized,
supplier?
Notarized documents, like all that bullshit.
You know what's going to happen? This is going to become like the medical billing industry, where hey, insurance company, pay us for this. Like, that's too much. We're going to pay you this much. Okay, cool. We'll raise our rates by 80% so that we can actually make what we need to make. All right, customer, patient, this is your price. That's crazy. My insurance company doesn't pay that. Oh, okay. So the cash price is this, 50% off. Like, really, 50%? All right, fine. 80% off for the cash price. Okay, here you go. Only we don't have that option with Amazon, right?
Well, and I think people will also be intimidated. They'll be afraid to submit invoices, or they'll be afraid to fight because you submit an invoice and Amazon says your invoice looks fake. Are you going to keep fighting it because you might believe? Now, I would, but I understand from my client's perspective, I'm afraid to do that because they could suspend my whole account because I'm pushing and saying this is a real invoice. And that already happens. How much more are they going to do that now?
Yeah. I got suspended for 4 months for literally no reason. Leslie, I should show you my chat history and all the cases that my wife and I did, but literally not a single employee at Amazon was able to say why we got suspended, and it took me 4 months to get my accounts turned back on.
So frustrating. Yeah. So imagine going through that over trying to recoup a shipment that again they lost.
Yeah.
They did the bad thing, not you.
Yeah.
New service coming. New service coming. Right? Leslie, that's your new division, Leslie.
There you go.
Yeah, no kidding. Trying to get your lame cogs back, not even your net of fees like we get now is net of fees, right? You're just trying to get your lame cogs back, and they're fighting you on that.
You know what would be interesting is a service where all the data passes through and it organizes it and keeps track and records and everything like that, so that this would become an easier system with Amazon, because I guarantee you that, like we're seeing right now, it's getting more complicated. This is only step one for Amazon to deny your claims or underpay you, right? That is going to happen. They don't want to give you the money that is rightfully owed.
Yeah. And another thing that's frustrating for resellers like myself, when I send a shipment into Amazon, I might have 100 or 200, maybe even up to 300 different SKUs on a shipment. So then they lose, 10% of that shipment or 5% of that shipment. And now I'm not submitting just one invoice. I'm submitting 4, 5, 6, 10 different invoices because these products are from different suppliers.
Yeah.
And it can just become a nightmare. I've got a system to keep all of our invoices and everything, but still it just, takes a full-time person just to do all those requests for reimbursements and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, Mina's saying he's got to go.
All right.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we're no problem. We're hitting the end here anyways. So I appreciate you joining us, Mina.
Yeah.
Of course. Hope to see you guys in the next one.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
See you, buddy.
See ya.
Bye.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's a new day in Amazon, as they say, and I think competition is coming for Amazon in the for Temu, Shine, Walmart, Etsy.
Speaking of, sorry to cut you off. Speaking of, I just remembered Rivley has opened up their beta for shoppers. So I didn't. Yeah. I just got the email, so I just wanted to shoot that over to you real quick.
Rivly.com, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see.
It's closed beta, but you can, yeah, there you go. Join the wait list now. But
Okay. Yep.
yeah,
Cool.
but they've just opened it up to people like you and I that have been working with them. And Leslie, I think you've worked with Rivley a bit as well, haven't you?
Yeah, someone in my business has, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So anyhow, I'm sorry to cut you off there, Todd. I just flash remembered that, but you know,
yeah,
this
no,
is who
I
I
was
want
just
to be
gonna
the main
say,
competitor.
you know, Amazon, it's going to be death by 1,000 cuts. Not that
Yeah.
Amazon will die, but you know, I don't think there's going to be a competitor that's going to rise up and like match Amazon in terms of total sales.
Except
but
for
there's going to
TikTok
be a
Shop.
lot of niche websites. Yeah, TikTok Shop, Walmart, Etsy, Temu that are going to start taking away little shares. And the more Amazon keeps messing with sellers, the more that we're just looking for these other ways out
100%.
and to get more sales somewhere else. If we went back 5, you know, maybe even just a few years before the pandemic, you know, I don't think very many sellers were like intensely trying to figure out like, how can I make money outside of Amazon? Because this is getting ridiculous. But now almost everyone is looking at what other options are out there.
Yeah. And just to give Rivley a little bit more of a plug here, it is a one-click integration. If you're an existing Amazon seller and you want all your inventory to be sold on Rivley as well, it's one click. And you can do MCF through there. So as soon as this marketplace goes open, I think they have 40,000 shoppers right now in their list, probably maybe more at this point. But yeah, like I think, I can't remember if we talked about it on the last one, Todd, but diversification, I think that over the next 3, 5, 10 years, if you want to remain in business as a brand, diversification is going to be critical for you.
For sure. For sure. That's what it's going to take to, you know, push back on Amazon once the number of new sellers is less than the sellers leaving, or at least decreasing the amount of products that they're selling on the platform. That's the only time you'll start seeing changes back in our favor.
Yep,
for sure. But yeah, check out Rivley. Anybody out there listening? I know the guys who are running it and building it. They're good guys building an awesome platform. So I really hope they can get it going. It's going to be obviously a tough row competing with Amazon, but just the fact that it's only USA businesses, not only USA products, but only USA businesses that can sell on there, I think will be a big selling point, at least for sellers. We'll see how that works to buyers and how they can handle it there. Cause that's, you know, basically the holy grail. You got to get the eyeballs, or else the sellers aren't going to stay. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm rooting for them.
Yeah, me too. And they come from our world. They are still active Amazon sellers to this very day.
Yep.
So they're coming from experience.
All right. Well, cool. Might as well wrap it up there. Leslie, Dana, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Good to be
and
here.
Everybody out there watching, happy selling, and we'll see you next Friday.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year's.
Christmas. Yes. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Have an awesome one.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.